Welcome to this video. Thank you so much for tuning in and sharing in this now moment with myself and with one another. If you haven't seen these videos before, welcome. And welcome back if you have. My intention is unity and oneness, the highest levels of love light. I'm just going to go into a little flow. I do want to talk a little bit about being comfortable in discomfort, getting out of the comfort zone. So maybe I'll do a little bit of that first and then kind of see where this goes. I was invited to get out of my comfort zone this week. And my friends from my dream chat, so I want to say thank you to these girls, Megan and Liz and Kate and Candace and Saskia. We talk about our dreams and what we're seeing in synchronicity. So I think that's important just to point out briefly that there are other people out there that are experiencing what we're experiencing, oftentimes in their own way. And sometimes it can be very valuable for us to find our group, our tribe, or whatever it might be. And you might have multiple tribes. It might not just be one tribe, but finding that tribe where you can talk about your dreams and you can say, this is going on in my life. And you'd be surprised how many other people, especially that are on that same wavelength as you, are going through something similar or went through it last week or then end up going through it next week. And it becomes this beautiful, I'm getting goosebumps. It becomes a beautiful exchange through this experience where we can assist each other in expansion, in understanding what's going on in our lives, in recognizing that just because we're having a weird day, doesn't mean we've lost our magic, although it can feel like that sometimes. And there's a lot of starseeds and light workers out there that still feel isolated and still feel alone. And part of the reason I started doing these videos in the first place was, well, there's a lot of reasons, and I'll just give that briefly, was because I was guided to. My guidance team was like, it's time. Get out of your comfort zone. And that's kind of where I'm going with this. And I've been guided to share a little bit more of my personal experience. But a lot of light workers that I talk with don't have their tribe. They feel alone. They feel isolated. They don't feel like they can talk and be themselves around the people that they're with. And that might be a completely separate video, or I might decide to just really expand in this video on that, depending on how much room I have on this video. But sometimes what happens is we get in a habit of being alone. We get in a habit of people not understanding us, or we think that people don't understand us, or they really don't. And because of that, we withdraw. We go within, or we acclimate to people who don't understand us because we play a certain role, which is, okay, I'm just going to go along with this, and I guess I'm going to be friends or stay with this partner, person, place, thing, because I can't really express who I am. And that in itself is a habit. And it's something I'm being invited to share that I'm seeing in the collective, that many of us are being invited to recognize and to get out of our comfort zones, because sometimes it seems like it's really uncomfortable because we feel alone and we don't know what's happening in our bodies, or we have all kinds of stuff going on that's creating this emotional turmoil. Some people feel like they're like, I don't have anybody. But that in itself is an old dialogue that we tend to tell ourselves for so long that it becomes part of our story. And I've been seeing this working with others. So the common tendency with the light workers I work with that don't have a soul group, or they don't have anybody they can talk to, where I'm at, I have one friend basically who is my friend I see in person that I really can connect with and talk about all of these things. Because of where I live and because of what I do, I have a group of friends that I've started to connect with as well. And that has come, it's taken years. I'm just sharing my experience. However, because of doing this work and getting back on social media, which was highly uncomfortable for me, I had to really get out of my comfort zone, step onto social media. Hello, YouTube. I mean, that was, doing a video on YouTube was so uncomfortable. And I still have moments where I see myself and go, am I really going to post that? Click. And I had to reach out and I connected on Instagram. I don't really go on Facebook a lot, but I'm sharing this with you guys because Instagram and social media does not have to be about what we think it does. So we are being invited to use our own creative expression. Not everybody's going to get it. Not everybody's going to like it. And you might meet people who you think are right along your wavelength, and then all of a sudden something happens and they're not. And part of getting out of that comfort zone is to discover that and experience that so that we can then navigate and help us to recognize what it is that we do or don't want, what it is that we are experiencing, and where we are going with this. And social media can be very helpful with that. That doesn't mean that it has to be all of the time and that's our only set of friends, because we can go to the other end of the spectrum, which is an addiction, addicted to needing people to give you feedback on social media. Like, how come nobody liked this? Or how come somebody didn't, thumbs down this? That can also be a very good experience for us to get out of our comfort zone. And I just wanted to share that because I see a lot of light workers who are just kind of not sure where to go or who to turn to. And if you start looking stuff up on Instagram, for example, about whatever it is you're interested in, it might be the Merkaba, it might be Egypt, it might be certain teachings from certain teachers, it could be magic, it could be dreams, just by putting yourself out there to kind of look into that arena can sometimes assist us in pulling us out of the feeling of being alone. Because for those of you watching this who really don't go on social media, I understand completely why. And I'm certainly not encouraging anybody to do it if they don't want to. But the question becomes, are we feeling alone? Well, then we have to, if we want to, make the choice to get out of the habit of falling into that storyline of feeling alone. And I wanted to share too that even when you have friends around you and you find your soul group and you find the magic in all of this, there's still times that you can feel alone. We all go through that. There's still times that we have moments of feeling like nobody understands us because we are a unique individual expression. And just because somebody gets us, for example, my husband gets a lot of the things that I do now, but 5 years ago, not so much. It's been a journey for he and I. And I'm so grateful that I stuck with it and continued to get out of my comfort zone and do what I needed to do to find the magic in my life, because it's brought our relationship to a whole other level, including his journey as well. That's, so it's become, and I'm using that as an example because this can be in friendship, with family, so on and so forth. So getting out of our comfort zone can sometimes, so I want to talk about that whole feeling alone. Also, if we're doing the same things over and over again, and many of us have heard this, we're going to get the same results. So I get asked sometimes, well, I feel alone because I think people will judge me, or I can't express myself because they think I'm crazy. And I get it. But that creative expression can come through. Start a journal, dance it out, record yourself dancing, and just don't judge yourself. Because ultimately we're creative, expressive beings. And we're not here to create and express what somebody else has told us to create and express. Those days are over. And so that can be uncomfortable for us to find our own rhythm, to find our own cycle, right? The drums, find our own rhythm. Woodpecker talks about this, right? Because ultimately, if we're following somebody else all of the time, that can be helpful in the beginning, or from time to time when we feel like we need a little change, or we feel like somebody is sharing a story that we resonate with. That can be very helpful. But what I'm feeling is it's time to find our own journey and our own path. And so figuring out what it is that's holding us back is really important. And so this work that we are all doing together, finding those people to reach out and connect with, and doing the work on ourselves is key. And this can be by getting a massage, doing cranial sacral therapy, doing sessions with other light workers that you may feel like get you, connecting on dream groups, so on and so forth. Because the more we do that, the more we expand, and the less judgment we put on ourselves, or the more we feel when we are judging ourselves and we become aware of it. So it can be a story that we tell ourselves that we're alone and nobody understands us. But we are being invited to recognize that is our story. And that while that may be true on one end of the spectrum, the other portion of that is, well, I am a divine manifestor and creator. So if that is my truth, that must mean I am creating this. And I'm talking on a really multidimensional level. Obviously, we don't blame others for feeling alone. Or we could be blaming somebody else for making us feel like we can't speak our truth. But ultimately, it's our responsibility and our ability to respond to speak our truth. And if somebody doesn't get it, that's okay. Because we're also being invited not to judge them for judging us, if that makes sense. And so we can sometimes fall into that place that everybody is wrong, that these people suck because they make me feel like I'm not worthy. But ultimately, it's us that makes us feel like we're not worthy, because we don't own that. We can say that's on them. That's their judgment that I'm choosing to accept. I'm kind of going very all over the place right now, but I hope you're following. So it's about us getting out of our comfort zone sometimes and doing things that we're not used to doing. And we may fall on our face. Not everybody is necessarily going to give a thumbs up. Not everybody necessarily is going to like what we're sharing. But we're not here just to make everybody like us. And part of that can make us feel like we're finding our truth in, obviously doing no harm to somebody else and just finding that balance. And what'll happen is sometimes we'll have a conversation with somebody at a coffee shop, or maybe create a meditation group. I have somebody recently who told me they were creating a prayer group, and then they said that they just didn't feel good enough, like they weren't worthy of creating this prayer group. And I love bringing this up. I'm going to continue to talk about this on and off, because this ties in with, they stepped up. They got out of their comfort zone and they wanted to make a change because they were really getting involved in the truther and this is going on and that's going on. And they realized, I can't change that. I cannot get out there and change on a large scale what's happening, let's say, for example, in Hollywood, right? So what they decided to do was start a prayer group and a meditation group for women to get together and share prayers and love and light. And that was a huge step for them. Making a difference, making a change, creating a friendship with people, so which helps this individual not feel alone, right? they come together and share ideas, but then that can bring up discomfort as well. Because once we step outside of our habits and we try something new, somebody might judge us because they might think they are more worthy than we are. Or more importantly, with this particular situation, this person felt that they weren't worthy enough because they maybe have made some mistakes in their past. And who are they to sit down and start a prayer group that might be around the Bible or meditation and great teachings when they've made all these mistakes? And it was so beautiful because I was so excited, and I said, what better person than to give guidance than someone who's been through it and experienced it, right? What better way for you came out the other end of all of these life experiences, choices that you did, that you made, that you feel you shouldn't have made, choices that you wish you would have made, experiences in marriage, experiences with children. I mean, these are all beautiful experiences that somebody else, you may have a fresh perspective that helps somebody else not feel so alone, right? And I'm kind of tying this all in together. We all have this ability to share with one another. So it's getting out of our comfort zone, stepping outside of our norm, putting ourselves out there, yet doing it in such a way that we recognize that there may be differences of opinion and judgments. And these are beautiful opportunities for us to integrate that within ourselves. And it's not always us judging us. Sometimes it's somebody else and their own judgments. And it's us being neutral and recognizing that that other person may be on their own. They're all on their own, right, track. They're on their own track. They're in their own little bubble. And whatever they're sending out, I'm not picking up. But, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. If you want to do a ho'oponopono around that, sometimes that can be very helpful. Changing the energy around that belief. And then if it triggers something in us, it is an opportunity for us to grow, integrate, recognize that we're being triggered. And sometimes it can be as simple as saying, that's not mine. Done. Poof. And this takes practice sometimes. I have a lot of people that I've worked with that have tried things and it hasn't worked, so they never did it again. Then I have people on the opposite end of the spectrum that have tried everything, right? And they keep trying everything and they don't think that it's worked. But ultimately, they're not the same person they were when they tried that thing 5 years ago and a week ago. And we're being invited to see that it's a perspective. So if you go back and try what you didn't work a year ago, it might work for you this time around. So there's a lot of different opportunities and synchronicities that I'm seeing in this collective experience. Getting out of our comfort zone is the other thing I wanted to delve in a little deeper. So I have a little bit, but the body symptoms, still a big issue with a lot of people. And I'm not surprised. It comes up for me still too. And sometimes I recognize that I just have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And my friends from the Dream Chat, I think Megan, I'm not sure which one presented this, but thank you girls, was talking about the sometimes when she's really comfortable being up here, but she recognizes that some people might not be, right? And I'm seeing that as well. And this is an example of synchronicity. By sharing this information with each other, we've picked up on a common theme. And so it's really interesting to talk about. So sometimes I will be in a space of, and this is my own personal experience, of extreme discomfort. I'll be physically uncomfortable. I'll be a little grumpy. I'll feel like I lost the magic, which that's a whole other video I want to do. I'll feel like I'm not feeling creative. I get antsy and literally itchy because I'm experiencing this change in frequency and change in vibration. And so it really is like, sometimes I just have to get comfortable with feeling uncomfortable and allowing that to kind of just be what it is, rather than having to, what is the common theme that we've heard all year, get back to normal, right? Because 3D might have been my old normal, and now I'm up here most of the time. It's uncomfortable to come back down here. Or vice versa, I might be going through some energies that I'm integrating, let's say some anger or fear, whatever it might be, and I'm really uncomfortable, and there's some high energies coming in to assist me in integrating that, and I'm in resistance. So there's different ways of looking at it. It could be all of the above. And so sometimes I just have to let it happen, let myself be, and sometimes I'll get into resistance and I'll go, well, I don't feel like doing anything today. I'm just gonna binge watch TV, which I haven't done in a while, but whatever it might be. I'm gonna just unplug, not respond, and do what I need to do to focus and hone in. And sometimes that's what I need to do. Other times it's just get out and exercise. And that can help move some of these uncomfortable energies through. Sometimes the uncomfortable energies are physical, like I just described, and I did talk about physical upgrades in a previous video. You can look up that. Sometimes they're emotional, feeling sensitive about everything. It is also something to recognize as being a story, because if I keep telling myself that nobody gets me because I'm so sensitive, that then makes it true. Right? Over and over again. So it's managing that, because if we are hypersensitive and we're expanding all of our extrasensory abilities, that's why it's even more important to get grounded, right? Feet on the ground, feeling right, and neutralize all of these really high energies. I think I talked about this the other day about the yo-yo. Because ultimately, once we can feel surfing and riding that wave, it's easier to navigate. So if we're feeling uncomfortable, the point of that kind of last couple sentences was, it isn't always about sitting down and going, why am I uncomfortable? I can't handle this. I want it to go back to normal. Why does this have to be so complicated? Those are natural human thoughts that maybe all of us have from time to time. And that's okay. It's all right to feel that way. Don't beat ourselves up. But on the flip side, sometimes it's just about breathing through it and not judging why or what or how and where we're going. And you know what I mean? It's like a balance. So when I get into really physical discomfort, I just do my best to relax. And the funny thing about that is, when I started going through this years ago, there was no relaxing for me. It was like a fake it till you make it, which I've talked about in another video. And it's just when I say that, it's not like I ignore it. I just acknowledge it, feel all the stuff that's going on, and I just breathe. I breathe through it. I do what I need to do to balance and to stabilize and to stay as neutral as possible. And that does not mean I feel comfortable in that process, by the way. It doesn't mean that I'm just like, oh, okay, that's done, that's over with, I'm good to go. And sometimes it does. Sometimes that can last for days of feeling itchy, weird lights going on, having strange dreams, right? Feeling anxiety and anxiousness. But I've gotten to the point after practicing of managing that discomfort, and that assists me in integrating it very quickly. But I'm sharing my process with you guys, because there might be somebody watching this that has never experienced this before, these feelings. So it's breathe. It's recognize that this might be uncomfortable and being okay with that, and not acting as if we have to be comfortable with everything going on. It means that we're just dealing with it the best that we can in that moment. And that'll help, because then we're not in that space of, I can't stand this, I just am so upset, when is this going to be over? That just makes it worse, speaking from experience. Last but not least, coming into a space of acceptance. So that's kind of what that is, when we become comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's a form of just accepting that we're in a place where it's not going to necessarily feel like sunshine and rainbows. And that can sometimes allow us to, like I said, integrate. Also, getting out of our comfort zones, the last part I wanted to touch briefly on. And that means sometimes taking a chance. I talked about taking a chance on social media, taking a chance, and not feeling rejected when we take that chance and we don't necessarily get the results that we were expecting. That comes back to expectation, expecting results. My guidance team always says, don't have any expectations. Just be who you are, put it out there, and you're not going to get disappointed, because that has to do with ego. And that's a whole other video. But just let it be. So if you want, I'm not suggesting going and posting a YouTube channel, but you can if you feel guided, or just make your own videos, or write your journal and do your artwork and make it part of your creative expression, where it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks of it, because it's just you allowing you to be you. And you'd be surprised as things progress and people start to become more aware and awake. More and more people are starting to be interested in things that they weren't interested in a month ago. So maybe a month ago people didn't get you, but this month they might. Right? So I'm just throwing that out there as well. But it's important for us to do things, because when we step out of our comfort zone, it helps us to grow, and it helps us to recognize what it is that's been holding us back from our from the programming that we've been, we've conditioned ourselves, or allowed our environment to condition us, whatever it might be, without giving it a label. It helps us to then process it and come into a space of neutrality and acceptance and grow. And also, if we are and it's not just about stepping out of our comfort zone. It's not something we have to necessarily do all of the time. Sometimes we've stepped out of our comfort zone, stepped out of it so much that we feel so frazzled that we haven't been able to find solid ground. So it is finding a balance. Maybe do a few things that are kind of crazy for you, that make you feel good. Then take a step back and integrate it, process it, analyze it if you feel like it, or don't analyze it. Don't go too far into analyzation, because then that takes us just into the left brain and takes it out of creativity. But sometimes it's good to look back and say, wow, I did that. This is how it made me feel. Okay, I'm going to integrate blah, blah, blah. I didn't feel so good doing this. I felt great doing that. Maybe that's what I should go in the direction of. Sometimes it's doing things that outside of our comfort zone that make us fall on our face, where we go, okay, I'm willing to try it again. We'll do it from this direction. Or, that didn't make me happy. This did. You have to sometimes try different things. And all of these out of the comfort zone things are done with the intention of, right? Do no harm. So love light, highest expansion, highest expression, and, your highest and greatest good. And that's the direction. That allows us to go, okay, part of this is growth. And last but not least, that whole stepping up into the higher dimensions, sometimes it can be uncomfortable for us when we've been in a habit of being here. And now we're being offered or asked or invited to be up here. And it's almost like that stretch, right? You're being stretched into that, and it can be like, no, I want to get there, but it's really, really uncomfortable. I want to come back, and you want to pull back. It's like that, what are those amoebas? Where you put your finger in and they close up, and then they'll open and then they close. It's almost like that. So we're being pulled into expansion, and this is like, even though we want it, oftentimes we because of our habits and because of density and things we've held on to, we drag our feet. We try to make excuses, and it's not even necessarily conscious. So that's why working on ourselves is so important, to kind of bring to conscious what's unconscious, or to allow ourselves to accept how we're feeling so we can integrate all of those aspects. So in love and light, guys, thank you so much for sharing in this video. Namaste.